go. I am very, very pleased in this wonderful New Year's Fitness and Wellness Forum to be joined by Andrew Dorey, owner of Oak Performance and Fitness Coaching, also, of course, a colleague of the industry. Max Segal, founder of the Arna Consulting Group. Lovely to see you. Kristin Lenardson, who is Vice President, Managed Risk Services at World Aware. And of course, Jacquie Davis, Operations Director at Optimal Risk. It's a great pleasure to bring you all together in 2021. Welcome. Bit of a mouthful.
Welcome.
Okay, so we've convened this forum because obviously we assume that people may be seeking fitness in their own lives. And what I'd like to start with, to give everyone a flavor of course, who you are. Now, many of us, of course, know who you are, but let's do it anyway. And combine who you are, your journey, with your physical fitness journey. And I think, Jacquie, it'd be quite nice to perhaps start with you.
This is so relevant to me at the moment, Phelan. I've just spent 5 weeks in hospital with a collapsed lung, sepsis and pneumonia. And when I came out of ICU, the doctor said, the only reason you survived is because you're physically fit normally and you're not overweight. So normally I'm obviously, as close protection and surveillance, I keep my fitness up. Probably walking 10 miles a day, swimming, and I'm very, very careful about what I eat. I eat healthily, I cook from scratch. So, excuse my breathing. Personally, I can tell you that being physically fit, eating healthily, not being overweight, will certainly help you survive. You need those for your job. But in this awful COVID times we have at the moment, it's also really important and really relevant to keep you and make you well.
Awesome. No, that's a really good and current case study, of course, in the current times. Glad to see that you are on the mend. So that's good. Why don't we go around, Mac? Lovely to see you. I know you have a bit of a different background in terms of fitness, but could you give us your fitness story combined with your background?
Fitness background. I actually started out as a personal trainer in health clubs back as a young man and a martial artist. Actually worked in health clubs for a few years. I guess in those years, like some young people today, just kind of lived at the gym and the studio and the dojo and kind of moved between them. But similar to Jacquie's story, actually, when I worked at the gym, a chlorine cylinder for the swimming pool, a pipe cracked. Basically, I got a blast of chlorine gas in my face and landed up in the respiratory ICU. My lungs looked like Table Mountain on a cloudy day. And the same story, Jacquie, the doctor said to me, if your cardiovascular fitness wasn't where it was, you probably wouldn't have survived. Like the only reason after you got the chlorine that you managed to continue breathing was that, cardiovascularly you were very fit. So I can just second what Jacquie says, that, we talk about it, but it actually can save you. You're definitely in a better position if something happens or any sort of crisis we'll talk about later. But physical fitness is a real investment in yourself.
I love it. Investment in yourself. And of course, this is the decade to re-skill. And one of those skills is getting to know yourself, I suppose. And of course, you mentioned, crises. It was reported in some countries, they wouldn't give you a ventilator unless you had a BMI of whatever. So we know the background. Yeah, it's key. Let's go around again. Kristin, nice to welcome you. Nice to see you. Welcome to, well, this isn't England because we're international, but welcome anyway. Tell us a bit about your fitness journey and your background.
Yeah, thank you. So I actually started working at the FBI when I was 22. And when I was, late teens, early 20s, I knew I wanted to go into the FBI, and I was silly. I thought you had to have all these crazy ninja skills and martial arts skills and be completely physically fit. As it turns out, you don't really need any of that to get accepted into the FBI. But I've been in martial arts since I was 19, and I've been, working out and running and doing different types of physical fitness my whole life. Don't hate me. I was a CrossFit level 1 cert instructor for a little while. So I know how CrossFit's very polarizing. I no longer do it. But I think really to Jackie's point is when COVID started this past year, I know that when I don't sleep well and when I don't eat well and when I'm not working out, I get run down and I get sick. And so having that in the back of my head, knowing what I needed to do to keep myself healthy, knowing what I needed to do to keep myself in a good mental and physical mindset, so that I wouldn't get run down and be more susceptible to being sick, just getting up and keeping the routine and running every day. So that's kind of what I've been doing throughout my life. And also, being in security itself, we really do have to lead by example. It's very important for us to not only understand the job, but walk the walk and talk the talk and look the part. I would say that is definitely part of the job, but also leading by example to other folks that are in the industry to say, we have to stay in shape. We've got to treat our bodies well. We can't be out all night doing silly things because we're going to have to work the next morning at 6 a.m. So that's a little bit about my journey.
Awesome. No, and we'll delve into that in a little bit, which will be great. Andrew, I've saved you until last on this, Rhoda, because I'm conscious that you are currently a personal trainer, and I love the images in your background. Tell us about that journey, that splicing of the two worlds, and what you think people need to start the year with.
Okay. Well, my journey is, I guess, a little bit different than what's been talked about. So I've kind of been an athlete my whole life. So fitness has always been intertwined with my athletic career. So I grew up, I live in the UK, but I grew up in Canada and played high-level American football in Canada before leaving in 2012 and coming to the UK. And I joined the Royal Marines and served in the Royal Marines for 7 years. So obviously fitness was a huge part of life then. And then since leaving the Corps in 2019, fitness being such a passion, I thought it would be great to work in the industry, and as well kind of, get into security, get into close protection. And I thought, as the point has been made, I mean, it's such an integral part. It's not the only part, but certainly an integral part of security and close protection. So that's kind of what led me to where I am.
Awesome. Well, let's stay with you, Andrew. Then let's look at that journey, and let's look at that splicing of disciplines. Could any CP operative be a personal trainer, or is it something that you really have to work at? Because it can't just be enough to be fit. Tell us a little bit about your transition.
Because it's been an interest my whole life. As I was getting ready to leave the Royal Marines, I did my PT courses, and I did a lot of educational stuff and reading on my own. And I think, sure, any close protection officer, I suppose, could do a level 3 PT course and be a personal trainer. But I think, that's a very kind of basic level to say. So I think you could do it, but to really have a grasp of doing PT type stuff, so much of it is around coaching. It's not really so much just about sets and reps and programs and those kinds of things. And being able to understand, for example, if working with someone in close protection, being able to tease out the needs of this particular job, what is required. Kristin mentioned CrossFit earlier, and I know it's been very popular, and there are a lot of folks who think, oh, I'll do CrossFit and that will get me really fit for a CP or whatever. But, CrossFit is a sport. It's a good sport, but it's a sport. It's not a methodology of training. So it's, so the art and the nuance of being a PT and a successful one, I think, and especially in working with CP operatives, is understanding the job and the people that are in it and really what they need. So just being a CP officer and then on the side being a PT is, yeah, sure, it could be done, but how effective you'll be, that's kind of questionable. So.
Okay, well, let's pick up on that lovely thread there. You've sort of got to my next question. So I'll go to Jacquie now. Bespoke to what they need. What do EP colleagues need? What is it? Is it some sort of body weight resistance exercises? Is it cardio? What is the need?
The need is that they need to be fit for their client. So in worst case scenario, you've got to be able to pick your client up and run with them. That is the absolute worst case scenario, but you've still got to be able to do that. And so being unfit just isn't acceptable. A lot of clients are physically fit themselves, and they expect you to go running with them round Hyde Park. They expect you to walk 10, 12 miles a day with them. You've got to be able to do that. And so it's not just the physical fitness, of course, it's the mental fitness as well. You've got to have your head in the right place. You've got to accept what the job is and not keep saying, oh no, that's not my job to go running around Hyde Park. If you're the CP, that's your job. You've got to be able to do it. And really, that's as basic as it is.
Awesome, yeah, because imagine you're protecting someone in water polo, then I guess now water polo is your sport.
Absolutely. Skiing, you know, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, we always put, if we've got a client that goes skiing, then obviously the operators have to ski. So they've got to be physically fit for that. If they go horse riding, the operators have to be able to horse ride.
I like it. I like it. Well then, Mac, you've also had this nice journey between PT and security world. Obviously, there's probably a distinction between desk-based colleagues who have perhaps left a lot of active work in the past, and perhaps they need to retrain. But what specifically, like in terms of an exercise to keep yourself fit? Of course, we can all go and practice golf, and we can all go and practice horse riding if it so is necessary. What would you say could be good as an actual, New Year's resolution for people to exercise on?
Okay. There's no one size fits all. The advice I'd say is, firstly, you have to enjoy the kind of exercise you choose. If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it, right? So if it's martial arts, if it's running, or if it's, wall climbing or calisthenics or CrossFit, whatever it is, you need to enjoy it. You need to look forward to it and want to do it. Whether you're doing a desk-based job or a field-based job, we work sometimes ridiculous hours. And the way that what Jackie referred to, staying mentally fit and being able to be on your feet or at your desk 18 hours a day, watching feeds or watching intelligence or watching surveillance feeds, and not tune out and not fall asleep at your desk, is cardiovascular fitness, is being physically fit. Because you have to stay switched on both physically and mentally all the time. For me, one of the things that a lot of people, I feel, certainly when I was coming up, didn't train, was what we call anaerobic recovery. So they could run 10 miles and they could bench press however much, right? But to elevate the heart rate and recover quickly, and elevate and recover quickly like fighters do, which is what you often need in a crisis situation. You have adrenaline, your heart rate skyrockets, or you have to engage a hostile, or you have to evacuate the client, but then you have to retain your breathing, calm your heart rate down, start making good decisions again, right? And then maybe you're going to have to run or fight once more. So it's what we call anaerobic recovery. And that kind of training is essential, and I think something that's a little bit neglected.
Anaerobic recovery, that's certainly a buzzword I'm going to be using. I imagine my anaerobic recovery is very low. Hopefully that's a bad thing, because that's how I meant it. Kristin, what else could lead to mental wellness through physical exercise? Is it the obvious kind of yoga and meditation? What can we advise colleagues to do?
I think Mac was right. Whatever exercise you like to do, you need to do that. If you're a swimmer, swim. If you're not a runner, don't run. Because you're going to be bored with it. You're going to hate it. So first of all, you have to choose something that works with your body type, works with your fitness goals. If you want to look like a yoga instructor, then you should do yoga. If you want to look like a power lifter, you should power lift. As far as the mental game goes, you also need to find something that helps you not necessarily always meditate. I cannot meditate, but I can run. And when I run, that's kind of my moving meditation. I'm out there, it's cold air. It was raining this morning. But getting out there and just myself, the pavement, my running shoes on, helps me take time to collect my thoughts, think about my day. I was actually thinking about what I was going to talk about in this session while I was running this morning. So I think it really is another thing that a lot of, so the moving meditation, regardless of if you're going to actually meditate, you're going to take time to think about things, helps you. I know that a lot of EP practitioners also do a lot of what if scenarios. So sometimes when I'm running, I'll do a what if scenario. What if a car pulls out in front of me? What if I, see a crime? I used to be FBI, like I said. So a lot of times if a car passes me several times, I take the license plate down mentally. So a couple of things like that, just to give yourself a little bit of mental sharpness. Meditation doesn't work for everyone. If it works for you, that's perfect. It's not necessarily my thing. Mine is more of a moving, being in nature, fresh air kind of meditation.
Okay, I like it. Movement through fresh air. Hopefully you've got more of it at the moment, especially now we're locked down. So that lovely elephant in the room, lockdown. Of course, it's not just the UK, other places are locked down too. Andrew, I'd be interested to see your thoughts on how exercise has changed through the lockdown. Have we suddenly given up on all the shiny equipment that we seem to want to rely on to get ourselves fit, and have we gone back to sort of resistance exercises, back to basics? What's happened over lockdown?
It's a great question. I think absolutely. I can speak for here in the UK as we're just going into now another lockdown where gyms will be closed. There definitely has been a move back towards minimalist type training. I myself have done that partially out of necessity, although I'm very lucky. I have a lot of gym equipment at home. But so, I've never seen so many people out for runs as I have while lockdown has been there. Running has become, it's one of the most primal forms of exercise we have. So it makes sense, people go out and it makes people feel really good. So, yeah, definitely there's been a huge move back. And I do wonder if that's going to stick around. I wonder if people are going to want to go back to gyms as much as they did before. So certainly it has changed, and I think for the better. I think there's a lot of people out there there's a lot of sexy things out there that people get sucked into, and it's unnecessary. Basics done well are essential in life and in fitness. So if you see a lot of, many people get into a lot of high intensity stuff without the skills and the base of movement required, and then it leads to injury or they stall and it doesn't really work out and they get frustrated. So certainly minimalist training has become a lot more fashionable, a lot more in vogue. And to be honest, I hope it stays. My fitness has gone that way and I'm enjoying that. It's nice. Yeah.
I like it. Well, because you're also a PT, do you actually see people who look physically fit, especially they're in the security industry, so they look the part, and then they just can't do certain things? They don't have the range of movement. What are your thoughts, Andrew?
Well, I mean, there's a lot going on in this conversation that, we could really get into the weeds with. And so I'll do my best not to go off onto some real tangents. Certainly that happens. Absolutely. You get, you get lots of guys who look jacked up and big, and yeah, they can't run, or they can't, or it's very taxing for them to be on their feet for 16 hours a day. Definitely that happens. And I think we have to understand that when we're talking about fitness for the security industry, we're talking about fitness as it relates to performance. Can I perform the tasks that I need to in order to be professional at my job? So sure, there's an element of looking the part is important, and that does make a client or a principal probably feel comfortable, but you need to be able to perform. So for me, Jacqueline touched on it, it's been touched on already. The two big things, regardless of size, regardless of how much you can curl or whatever, basic strength and aerobic fitness are the two key components. Aerobic fitness will allow you to be on your feet for 16 hours a day, and it won't feel difficult, so that you can then remain switched on for the entire time and not switch off because you're not worried about the fact that you're exhausted. So certainly you do, and you tend to see it at bars and nightclubs and stuff, guys that are really big guys and perhaps very, very strong, but could they perform and function 16 hours a day on little rest, on little sleep, constantly for days on? Maybe not. So it certainly does happen. So there's a way to train, and I think that that's something that's deeper that, you know, can be teased out within the industry, is what is really required really for the job.
Absolutely. And by that, you know, my question and what we're saying, we're not saying that you should be shamed because, you know, you're jacked, but you can't do anything else. Because of course this is a wellness forum and everyone's welcome, and we're trying to think about starting the new year with positivity. So I thought I'd throw that in there as a
Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, my point is definitely not to be taken in that way. I mean, I'm a larger than average individual myself, and certainly, certainly there's an element of that can be very good, and that's not a problem whatsoever. I just think, you know, it's important that we think, you know, being well-rounded is very important in this job, because there's so much that is required of it.
Wonderful.
So yeah.
In the audience, we've got Matthew Porcelli. He says he agrees with you, Jacqueline. Very well said. Mental fitness, in his own case, that there are not enough hours in the day, to mention being lack of sleep. And baby number 3, sharing personal examples was really good. Jacquie, what do you see as the key thing that can help you, you know, maintain mental readiness from a physical perspective? Is it repetition? Is it building habits? Because surely security professionals are good at making habits. Surely they are. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I've got to be honest. To me, it's talking to people. As you can imagine, having just, you know, laid in a bed for 5 weeks, mental health also plays a huge part. Mike O'Neill, who you know well, who's the chairman of Optimal Risk, was constantly on WhatsApp sending me funny videos. The girls I work with, who were also cat sitting for me, constantly sending me videos of the cat, which sounds daft, but mentally it kept me going. I kept thinking, I can't give up. The cat's 17, won't survive without me. And it really is about talking to people. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Don't be afraid to talk to yourself, you know, now and again. You have to have that conversation with yourself now and again, and be honest with yourself about how well you are doing or how well you're not doing. And it's not shameful to not be doing well. It really isn't shameful. What it's saying, your body is saying, is please get me help. And that can be help in, as I say, talking to somebody, a friend, talking to a doctor, bringing up the Samaritans if that works for you. But that is mental health.
Awesome. No, and lots of key things.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sharing too much personal stuff here, aren't I, about the cat, but it worked for me.
It's key. And I was just reading, because Annie from the BBA team just said, if anyone's having a tough time, please use the app and we can chat to each other. We can support each other. So that's feeding on that.
Brilliant.
But no, thanks for sharing all of that. You know, I think over the last year we've seen a big shift towards informal content where people share a lot more of themselves, which is I think you know, to be welcomed. We have people from the Getting Security Done crew, GSD crew, in the audience. You'll have seen their many videos. You know, many people have said, oh no, they're oversharing. However, it has brought a lot of people joy. So I think it's really good. Mac, what have you been doing? Of course, speaking at conferences with me, which is fantastic. Thanks very much. But what have you been doing to keep that conversation going, keep that stimulation going?
I agree again with Jacquie. There's a tendency in our industry, certainly, please excuse me, I know that I'm not allowed to gender anymore, but amongst the males of our industry, to be testosterone-driven macho men. And well, I'm a loner, right? I travel 250 days a year and I live on airplanes and hotels, right? And I don't need anybody and I'm really comfortable with myself and blah, blah, blah. But everybody needs somebody, right? And we all need people, whether they're colleagues or family or spouses or children, whoever it is, to share with, to speak to, And sometimes in our industry, it's hard if you're working EP and you can't really talk about your clients or your assignments or who you're with or where you are, etc. But you need to find an outlet. And this kind of loner persona that we convince ourselves that we can deal with all this stuff, it actually makes us less effective at our jobs. And whatever outlet works for you, like the same with Kristin was saying with physical fitness. If it works for you to play music or to speak to family or to exercise or to, go to book readings, whatever it is, but find a way to keep your mental fitness balanced. The fact that your job defines you is not a healthy thing, right? You are not your job. You are a human being. A job is part of you, but there have to be other parts. Otherwise, you'll just burn out at some stage.
Indeed, for me, it's job and Star Trek. But anyway, enough of me. We've got some nice comments in the audience. We've got Risha loves the cat share. He says that's what motivates him too. He got on well because the cats depend on him 100%. Kekshan reflected on, I think, something you said, Mac. He said, Kekshan says, we have to be okay with bringing our whole selves to work, which includes the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thank you for sharing your awesome insights as well. Jason says, nailed it, Mac. Now, Kristin, what do you think we can do as an industry to not just communicate about work? Because there is a tendency, that's kind of what we're trying to do with this forum. But how can we start to talk about non-work related things to boost our wellness?
So I have a global team of over 70 analysts throughout Europe, Singapore, Africa, of course, speckled throughout the US. And right after the lockdown started, and my team is young, my team is mid-20s to mid-30s for the most part. And when everything started, we decided to have kind of an after work kind of get together. And everyone just kept talking about work. And everyone just kept talking about, what they were doing and what they were going through and everything else. So I grabbed two of the members of my team and we decided to put it into a trivia night. And so once a month, my global team, we have a trivia night. It's voluntary. I give out prizes. We honestly just sit and go through silly trivia questions and just kind of interact and play off each other. It's something that, I'm not forcing it on my team. It is voluntary, but I had to pull them out of their own little kind of isolation at times and get them to do something else. A lot of people look forward to it. So that's one of the things that we do. I think that overall, I've been on a couple of webinars with, and you have some Zoom happy hours, and Philip, you and I had talked about this with some of my colleagues and former colleagues, and really all they wanted to do was drink and be angry and talk about work. And that's you also have to realize, to a point when you're talking with people and you're sharing experiences, but then there was a point for me when it became too negative, and I just didn't want to be there anymore. I don't want to sit alone at home drinking on my computer, listening to other people complain. That was not a good headspace for me. So I decided to opt out of talking to my friends. And, I'm talking to more positive people now. Like I said, we've got the trivia night, which is a positive experience that we're having. But I think you kind of have to look at the habits that you're getting into and decide if they are healthy for you. Because it is good, like Jacqueline said, talk to yourself, talk to your cats. I have a dog. I talk to the dog all the time. She thinks I'm crazy. But I think that you kind of have to figure out what those positive and negative things are and be strong enough to cut out the negative things, especially in these kind of circumstances, because it has been pretty isolating for a lot of people this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Even for me, trying to post positive articles, I sit there and I look for positive articles, and then I see some negative ones, and even I'm sucked down the rabbit hole, which is a bit of a shame. Kristin agrees with you on the dog front. He says he thinks his dog is crazy to be listening to him. Yeah, great quote. I love it. And we're going to see Kristin a little bit later, and that's going to be an interesting reflection, because Kristin is very big into fitness and CrossFit and so on and so forth. And Andrew, you mentioned CrossFit. It's just a game in a way. It's one of a number of games. is that what we should view this fitness as? A game? I don't know, maybe more miles or more personal bests. I don't know. What can we do?
Well, I mean, I can really only speak to the approach that I like to take with clients. I mean, like I say, yeah, CrossFit is a sport, and it's a great sport. I'm a fan of the sport. I did CrossFit for a little bit as well. I don't do it anymore. It kind of beat me up. But I think fitness for some can be a game, but I think it can be short-sighted to look at fitness and constantly look at it as that you're chasing a certain benchmark. So whether that's more miles or more weight or whatever. I think one of the ways that I have found, and a lot of my colleagues that mentors that I learned from, have found that one of the, fitness is a lifelong journey. You make a journey through fitness, and the goal is to, age as best you can. So my goal as a coach is I want a client to be 90 years old and be able to climb the mountain that they want to climb. And maybe they die at the top because it was hard work, but the point is that they got there, right? Is they want to have the highest quality of life possible for as long as possible. So in order to do that and create the will or the want to be engaged in fitness for a long time, chasing milestones doesn't really work, because there comes to a point in everybody's life when you're not able to hit PRs anymore. You are not able to get more miles anymore. That's just biology. It's the way it works for us. We can't do it. So I think the best way for me that I have found is if you attach fitness to people's deepest goals and priorities in their life. Okay, so for somebody who's 45 years old who wants to, get healthier, lose weight, whatever they want to do, maybe they're a mother, and attaching their fitness journey to being able to run around with their grandkids when they're 75 years old is maybe that's the most important thing for them, right? So constantly chasing more miles, while at times is really, really a good thing. And if you're an athlete, there's a different story there, right? Training for performance in an athlete is different than training for health and longevity and wellness. So I suppose what I'm saying is we have to figure out, are you training for performance or health and wellness? And then those are two very different things. So, yeah.
I like it. That dichotomy, health and wellness and performance, I suppose. You might want to just chill out. You've been very mentally active at work all the time.
So sorry to interrupt, but I'll just say there's if you look at the line of, if you imagine a line, and on one side on the left you've got death, and the training for performance and performing at a very, very high level, often that falls closer to the end of the spectrum of death than it does to health and wellness. So athletes at the highest level, I mean, this is known, we know this in science, of course, now, is, athletes that perform at the highest levels, extreme endurance athletes, or I suspect perhaps down the line with high level CrossFit athletes, high level athletes tend to die a little bit earlier than, they have a shorter life expectancy than others who train for health and wellness. So training for performance is not always about health, is what I'm trying to say. So there's a happy medium to find there, but it's just something to be aware of. If you want to train to be 85 years old and be the healthiest and have the best quality of life you can, that might not mean training to be the highest level CrossFit athlete you can be. As an example, not to pick on CrossFit, because I do think it's great, but it's just an easy example to make. But
I like it. No, and then there are lots of fans of it. So Chris Dorey in the audience says training for performance versus health and wellness equals next level and a differentiator. Well put. So and yes, maybe that's a podcast story, Chris. I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, this is fantastic. What I'd like to do is end it on a note of positivity, because it's really good to get sound bites out of everybody, because we can just play around with them. No, but in all seriously, 2021, new year, and perhaps new you. Some people said that 2021 is a testament to how you treated 2020. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, because some people had a really hard time. Why don't we go around and say, what's your advice for others in the industry to make the most out of their fitness in 2021? Jacquie, let's start with you and let's go around.
First of all, Phelan, you're talking to the wrong panel if you think you're going to play around with our sound bites. Christian, find out where he lives. So, no, so 2020, apart from the end of it being a bit rotten, my team and I worked all the way through. Again, doing our usual fitness routines of walking and swimming. I've just had a major conversation with them last night as we go into another lockdown. They obviously will continue their fitness as the whole, as the year goes on, weather permitting, of course, because most of it is outside swimming, outside walking, and they will have to adapt to what is coming forward. And hopefully with COVID coming to an end sometime in spring, we all hope, people can get back to other forms of fitness that they like to do in gyms, etc.
Awesome. Mac, what's your sort of takeaway? Not soundbite necessarily, because maybe we're not fans. What can we do? What can we teach our colleagues?
I guess if I was to give advice, which is the advice that I give myself, firstly, just move, right? When you get up in the morning, it doesn't matter if you have a 30-minute routine or an hour routine or a 10-minute routine and you just do some stretching and press-ups and sit-ups and calisthenics, but move, right? Don't kind of trudge from the bedroom to the kitchen, in your pajamas and get dressed at 11 in the morning. Move your body. If you can find sun, if it's on a balcony or in a window, for a few minutes a day, sit in the direct sunlight if you're fortunate enough to be in a country where there is, not just for vitamin D, which is great for your immune system, but it just puts you in a positive mental. It's really hard to be miserable when you feel direct sunlight on your face. And use music. For me, if I have the right music, then it's easy to train, it's easy to work out, it's easy to stretch, it's easy to meditate. So kind of find an environment, an atmosphere, a space in the house which works for you, kind of build a little sanctuary around yourself, even if it's for 15 minutes in the morning, but move, do something, be positive. It's so easy to find the negative, right? It's much easier, right? Finding the positivity takes a little bit of effort, but it's so worth it. So make the effort.
Love it, love it. Jason agrees with you in the audience. Jason says movement and action, complacency and stagnation is the killer. Kristin, your parting thoughts, your advice to everyone. Let's make 21 nice and positive.
Yeah, I think definitely having, like Mac both said, have positive habits, have positive interactions, reach out to people and just make sure that other people around you, if you haven't talked to them in a while, check in on other people, make sure that they're also having positive interactions. It is really easy to feel isolated, stay isolated. And so even just reaching out to someone once a day is good for your mental health and good for their mental health. So it's just such an easy thing to pass on. You can text in just a couple of seconds. I think one of the things also that I've learned this year, because I started out in 2020 bored and overtraining. So as you're doing everything, movement is important, being positive is important. Also listen to your body. If you're not feeling it, don't push it. Because what you don't want to do is get injured or get into a situation where you could be susceptible to becoming sick or any of those things that might take you out for a little while. So just listen to your body and scale your workouts as you need. And as Andrew said, as Mac has said, we're going to see diminishing returns after a while when you hit a certain age. So just, you don't necessarily be proud and push through everything, but listen to how you're feeling that day. And if you feel like taking a walk in the sunshine, do that. If you feel like running 20 miles, do that.
Awesome. Great sentiments. We are sadly out of time. I'm conscious there are so many topics we could have gone into. Annie very rightly points out we mustn't forget nutrition. Kristin says rest days are important. Never ever able to find the opportunity to rest muscles. Yet Jackie, you're continuing the dialogue there. I wanted to add the wonderful quote from the conductor of the New Year's concert in Vienna, Mr. Mutti. He says, consider culture essential to creating a better society. I thought that's a very nice way to start off the year for the Neujahrs concert, if any of you saw it. So, nice positive message. But we are now out of time. So Andrew, Jackie, Kristin, and Mac, thank you ever so much. Please let's give them a wonderful virtual round of applause. I'll leave you to find the virtual clap function, but it's been great. And
thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Thanks very much, Phil, for having us. Thank you.
I'll see you in the audience. Thank you very much.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Awesome. Right. And yeah, lovely comments in the audience. Please keep them coming. Of course, there's chatter on the BBA Connect app, so please do go there because it's good. You know, chat to all panelists and attendees here. That's wonderful. But the BBA Connect app, you can get a flavor of who you're chatting to a little bit more. Some nice, lovely comments in there. So Miranda says great information. Chris says great job. Alex says thanks. Mac is clapping. Elijah, hi Elijah, you're doing virtual clapping. Jason as well. Howie, Annie, George, Kekashan, and Martin. Wonderful. It's just keep on coming. So that is a wonderful scene setter. And of course, as we said, this is not medical advice. If you need medical advice, you need to go to a physician. But we have a wonderful treat for you. We're going to invite the founder of Finch Fitness, Jack Finch, who is a personal trainer here in the UK, to the stage to share with you his thoughts on personal fitness and hopefully some things that you can really take away, despite many of you feeling that you are fit. Because fitness is is a spectrum, I suppose. Jack, nice to see you. How are you doing?